he's trying. He's trying hard to get us, to knock us out, but he doesn't win. We're the winners, praise God, we're the winners. So, if you guys want to, you can agree with Margie and I. We've been praying that, we would have more and more people come to the church. I don't quite understand the phenomena of this area. I'm glad you guys are here. I really am glad you guys are here. God continually always supplies us a base of people, but I'd like to fill the pews. You know, there's more room. Just as an example, we're supposed to get a new sign, right? And I haven't paid him for it yet, but I will. I've got the money set aside. You guys have given enough that we could pay for the new sign. The problem is, the owner has been going to the hospital, and he's a young guy, probably in his early 50s. Didn't tell me that young. But having turned 68 Friday, he's been in and out of the hospital, and his wife's trying to run the business, and she can't really put together the people that he had planned, because before the sign's ready, the problem is that the pole and the lighting is so decayed that it's got to be redone. And I keep after him and been calling him, and it's kind of difficult because I have to call and say, how can I pray for Mark today? You know, it's because I don't want to start out, where's our sign? You know, so they've promised it week after week for the last month or more. And so, actually going back into early September. So keep Mark in prayer that he get better so he can get the sign up. He's going to do part of the work himself, and I think his brother-in-law and some other people are helping him, and he's got an electrician lined up and all this thing. And so keep that in prayer, because the enemy's trying to keep that sign from getting put up there, because I think it'll indicate some fresh life to the church. But we need to impact our community. We just need to impact our community. This has been a shock to Margie and I. We've been here since late 1999, early 2000, so that's almost 16 years. And it's been a shock to us, because when we went, the first church we had was a Baptist church in Blair, and they asked us to interim there. And in 6 months, it went from 15 people to over 135 people, and the place was just packed. It was just absolutely packed. And we couldn't stay there because we couldn't agree with the issue on the baptism of the Holy Spirit, obviously. They said they wanted me to stay. The Southern Baptist District wanted me to stay. But they said that they didn't care that I spoke in tongues and I was baptized in the Holy Spirit, as long as I didn't share with anybody in the church. Well, that's like being in an army and not sharing the guns. I mean, it's just crazy. So we couldn't stay there. So we came down here. We thought it would be similar, and we've just been shocked. The attacks on us physically. You know, there's something here. I don't know what it is. I don't want to get into a bunch of weirdo stuff. But there's something here that in this general community that is resisting a spirit-filled move of the Lord. There's some good moves of the Lord here with more evangelical churches, but I would think it was me if we hadn't seen other examples of things changing. So I have to believe we're really fighting against some difficult warfare here, and just things like the sign. The guy's been healthy for years, and now he's been in the hospital twice since we got the sign approved. And so it's just something. Just be in prayer, because you guys are here. God's got you here for a very specific reason. You're warriors in this community. You're the people that can change things in this community. And it's interesting because as we see how the people in America voted, about half the people in the United States voted conservatively probably primarily because they're kind of upset with the economic system, the job situation, the immigrant situation, the potential of enemies coming into our land. That's probably why they did that. But half of our nation voted for very, 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 very liberal, immorality, unethical. I mean, you couldn't have stamped it with more obvious things as far as lack of ethics. You know, I go back to when the Clintons left the White House for the first time. They were caught stealing $250,000 worth of historical artifacts out of the White House. And they claimed they thought they were theirs, and they brought them with them when they moved in. And it's just the lack of ethics, and that those people could still climb to a place. They just found out this week that they'd actually, they were bashing Trump for his relationships or potential relationships with Putin that they said that he had. And they found out that the Clinton Foundation had actually sold Russia an extremely large amount of enriched uranium because they got it as a donation from some Arab country or something, China, or somebody had donated the enriched uranium to the foundation. If I got all that right, I'm trying to just get it from the news. You know how accurate that is all the time. But I mean, it's insane that we even had a person get that far in the system. And I honestly, I don't think it's over yet, but my heart breaks for the young people in high schools and stuff that are picketing, and my heart breaks for them because they have been so mistaught about God, Christianity, who we are, what kind of a nation that we're established on. We've really done these kids a disservice. And when we were just watching that song, it said he said that Lincoln had said the schoolroom of this generation determines the politics of the next generation. And what we've done, and I'm glad you guys aren't, but what we've done is that we have sent kids off to school so we don't have to watch them, and let somebody else teach them and train them. And those people that are very, very liberal have infiltrated our school system, and they have become the shining examples of leadership in those children's, in those children. So many kids have gone off. So many kids I've known that were strong Christians, they've gone off to college, and 4 years later you can't even tell they're Christians because those people are so, they're in a position of leadership, they're in a position of authority, and if my teacher, this is the person that knows, and they actually don't. They actually aren't very tuned in, really. I worked with universities for years setting the curriculum at both Iowa State and the University of Nebraska for engineering. And I was amazed at how backward the professors were. They were like 10 years out of step with what was really going on in the industry. So these people are putting their own agendas, their own thoughts onto these kids, and it's just incredible. It's incredible how it's totally illogical, most of it. But our granddaughter said that one of our granddaughters said that they had to stop some classes because the teachers were weeping so bad about what happened with the election that in the Millard schools they had to actually stop classes because the teachers couldn't put themselves together. They were weeping so about the outcome of the election. And it's like, I don't know, it's just sad that it's gotten to that extent. And I repent because it was in my lifetime. It had been in my lifetime. In the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s is when this has happened, and we've been losing our nation. And we're at to the point, and maybe it's good, but we're at the point that the battle is really a spiritual battle now. We can't carry enough signs, we got half of a nation that desperately needs God, and desperately needs Christ, and we're the warriors. We're the soldiers, and we're either doing it or we're not. And we have to look at our own lives and say, what am I doing with that? So, not to belabor that point, but it's you that will multiply. I'm going to go through this message pretty quickly because I've been trying to get through it the last couple of weeks, but I want to get to a point that you see something that I want to show you. But go ahead and put it up. I don't know if anyone wants to kind of express, have we anybody, and I don't, I feel like handing out gold stars or something, if you memorize your scriptures, but it should be something that we're doing. Like they said in that song, he said that some of our founding fathers like Noah Webster could quote the scripture from cover to cover. Now, I'm not like that. I'm not the genius. I once, when I first got saved, I started memorizing the Gospel of John, and I barely got through the first chapter. So and I did that because we were leading JBQ at the time. My wife is Junior Bible Quiz, which is a thing of the Assemblies of God, where the kids learn over 500 different scriptures. Well, that's Junior Bible Quiz. Senior Bible Quiz, they have to actually memorize a gospel, and the kids were memorizing Luke at the time, the whole Gospel of Luke. And that's what I said, gosh, these kids are memorizing Luke. And I just heard the story about the lady that was in Germany. What's her name? Does anybody remember? Tinman. And she survived the camps, the Inquisition camps of Hitler. She survived those because she had just memorized, the Gospel of John. So I thought, well, I'm going to memorize the Gospel of John, and I tried it. I didn't get very far, but I think there's 20-some chapters. So, but we need to at least hide in our heart the word that we know. Margie's teaching the kids back there today, and what she's going to do, she's going to cut open an apple, and she's going to ask them where the life is in that apple. And I'd ask you, do you know where the life is in that apple? Where is the life in that apple? The life is not in the fruit and that we can eat, that we can see. The life is in the seeds. There's thousands and tens of thousands of apples in those seeds. The fruit is great. We get to eat the fruit. It's good for our bodies and all that. So what is the life that's in you? Is it what I see when I look down at you guys? Is it, and I don't mean I look down at you from where I'm standing, but is it what I see? Is it what I see on the outside? That's the fruit. That's the part of you that is a reflection of Christ. But the true life is what's in your spirit. The true life is what's in your heart. I can get up here and say, gosh, you guys really need to go out and evangelize, you need to knock on doors, you need to share Christ with people at work and at your, social settings, your relations, family, and all that. I can say that. And you can go do that. And I did that for many years at Glad Tidings. We went out for 9 years every Wednesday night. But I got to a point where I realized I was doing it in the flesh. Because my heart wasn't really that the people would get saved. My heart was that I would lead somebody to the Lord. But my heart really wasn't to get somebody saved and then have the opportunity to disciple. At one point about halfway through, I began to say, this is really what I want to do, is I want to fall in love with people. I want to love people. I was explaining to somebody this weekend on the phone about why I would put such an emphasis on pro-life versus pro-abortion in my voting thoughts. And I explained to them that I just love people. I love people. 58.8 million people have been killed, ruthlessly killed, in the name of pro-choice. 58.8 million creations of God have been killed. And I love people. I love people. I'm sad if a girl is impregnated and has to carry the baby full term when she didn't really want it or whatever. that's a sad situation. But there's people out there that want those babies. There's people out there that be willing to adopt those babies. 58.8 million. And what you don't understand is the multiplication factor. We haven't just killed 58.8 million children over the last 40 years, 50 years. We have killed them and all the multiple people that they would have produced on Earth. And we basically, it's been a trick to destroy America. That's not all the abortions in the world. That's all the abortions in America since Roe versus Wade. 58.8 million. Now multiply that if those people had each just had 2 kids, and their 2 kids had had kids over the last 50 years. It's incredible. The numbers are incredible. So why are we strong? We're strong about this. I'm strong for the babies that are being killed, but I'm also strong in my heart. I have a strong love for people. I don't want to see them go to hell. Yeah, I witness to people every day. Every single day I find a way to witness to people. And I was witnessing to a guy yesterday, a guy named Russ. And he says, you know what, I'm not interested in Christianity. I'm not interested in any religious stuff at all. I'm not interested in God whatsoever. And he was probably in his early 60s. And it just broke my heart. And his wife was standing there with him, and she was just looking all perplexed, like she thought he was being rude. I don't think she cared about the religious part. She just thought he was being rude to this pastor, right? And you could see that she was a little disturbed and upset. And this guy was obviously very much a chauvinistic leader of his household, and she was rather timid. And it broke my heart because he not only took the choice for himself to spend eternity with God, he took that choice away. He had apparently taken that same choice away from his wife. And if they had kids, I don't know, but obviously she had no ability to change her mind about that as long as he was living. And that's just wrong. It's just wrong. He's stolen his life and her life for eternity. And if we don't get a heart for that, if we don't get a heart for people, see, it's not the fruit that you see, it's the seed that's in your heart. And Christ gives us his seed through this word. Christ gives us his seed through this word. And sometimes I feel like a doting father or something like that to stand up here and tell you that you've got to get in the word. You've got to read the word. It's the seed that changes who you are. It's the seed that changes. We can change our outside appearance. We can try and look more like Christians. We can try and act more like Christians. But it's the love that's in our heart that's the seed that's been planted there by God. And it's either real to us or it's not. It's either real to us or not. And it's an ongoing test. It's an ongoing test of how real it is to us. Hey, let me give you an example. Let's say that I said there's a place in Paris called the Eiffel Tower. How many of you, go ahead and show hands, how many of you believe that there's an Eiffel Tower in Paris? Everybody in the room said they believe there's an Eiffel Tower in Paris. How many of you have been to the Eiffel Tower in Paris? One, okay. If Margie was in the room, she could raise her hand also. I've never been there. Her and Becky went to Paris together, but you've seen it, right? You think it's still there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, why do you guys believe there's an Eiffel Tower if you've never seen it? Pictures of it. Pictures of it. I've seen some pretty wild pictures of things that don't exist, but I mean, you've seen pictures of it, so you believe it's there, right? How many people have seen you'll confess to us, you'll make a confession that it's there, right? It's there, right? Now you believe it because you've seen pictures of it, or you've heard or read about it, or whatever, right? And Daryl has actually seen it. Did you go up it or not?
No,
didn't go up it. So you don't know if the elevator goes all the way to the top or not. But anyhow, so he's seen it, and he's testifying to us that he's seen it. So we know, did that make it any more real to you that it actually exists? Or nothing changed, did it? Probably not. How about Statue of Liberty? How many people have seen the Statue of Liberty? How many believe it's there? Everybody believes it's there, yeah. Yep. I've seen it, so I'll testify to you that there is a Statue of Liberty. I also did not go up the Statue of Liberty like you didn't go up there. How about the Washington Monument? We just saw it in one of the songs. How many believe there's a Washington Monument in Washington, D.C.? Yeah, good for you. How many have been up there? How many people have seen it? Ah, we got more testimonies here. I've seen it, you've seen it. Yeah, we got lots of testimonies there. So here's my point with the Word of God. How many believe in healing? Everybody raise their hands. How many believe in their heart that God heals, without a doubt that God heals? Everybody raise their hands. Praise God. I'm a testimony to that. Robert's a testimony to that. Lynn is a testimony to that. And if Lynn was here, Lynn is another Lynn is a testimony to that. Marge is a testimony to that. So if that's real to us, then we've seen these outward things that are real to us. Now we've seen these more personally significant things that are real to us, right? So, how real is God to you guys? Is everybody believe God is real? Okay. How many people have seen Jesus Christ? Am I the only one? I've seen him on three occasions, specifically seen him. And not that I saw him as in, somebody might say, you know, like I could walk up and touch him. But I had 3 cases where I've seen him. And so, if that's all real, how real is heaven to anybody in here? Heaven and eternal life. Does everybody believe in that? How real is hell to everybody in here? Okay. How real is God's love to everybody in this room? How real is his sacrifice to everybody in this room? If hell is real, Christ has paid the price. How real is the fact that you encounter daily people that are going to go to hell for eternity? I was stuttering between eternal damnation and going to hell for eternity. But it's so cute. My ears are kind of plugged from the cold, and I couldn't hear half of what I said, but it was so cute. It just went on and on. It just like, but you know, think about that. How many people do you encounter every day that you have the ability to change their life forever? And what stops us most of the time is either it's we assume they're going to say no. We assume they're going to say no. Or we assume they're going to reject us. Or we assume it's going to cost us our job or cost us something. And it all boils down to how much this is real to us. And the problem is if we don't know what it says, it can't be real to us. You can say this Bible is real to you, but if it was real to you, you'd know what it says, because it would be a director of your life. It would be an instruction book. You know, it's like Christmas time when the red wagon comes out and the guy starts putting the red wagon together, and he ends up with 3 or 4 extra bolts and doesn't know what happened. And his wife says, "Did you read the instructions?" "Oh, I didn't read the instructions." Well, most people go through life like that. We have the instructions, but they're only real to you. And you can say what you want to say, but this is only real to you is if you read it in that light, that I need to know what this says to know how to lead my life, how to lead my family, how to interact with my spouse, my responsibility as a father, my responsibility as a mother, my responsibility as a family member, my relationship as a neighbor. That's why Christ said, you know, the Old Testament, the Jews said, love the Lord. In Deuteronomy 6, it says, love the Lord with all your heart, with all your mind, and all your strength. And the young lawyer said, you know, what constitutes that love? And Christ went on to explain the Good Samaritan, or we call it Good Samaritan, never calls him good, but the Samaritan that stopped and helped the person. And Christ added the commandment to love your neighbor as yourself. That wasn't in Deuteronomy 6:5. Christ added that. Love your neighbor as yourself. Because he knew what he was doing was he was giving through his life in the cross, he was giving us the opportunity to interact with people, to bring them to salvation. Up to that point, the only people that had any guarantee of salvation were the Jews. That was it. All these other people, the Romans, all these people they were told to kill and wipe out by God, they had no option. They never had an option to escape hell. That option was never given to them. Abraham was given that option because he believed God. It was counted unto him righteous because he believed God. Moses, because he was appointed by God to reach the lost people of Israel that had gone off into the world, Egypt, and had become lost. Jesus came and he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, and all your strength, and your neighbor as yourself. We are not, that's the simplified version of all the 600 commandments of God, is love the Lord with all your heart, with all your mind, and all your strength, and your neighbor as yourself. And if we truly love our neighbor as ourselves, he didn't say love the neighbor above yourself. He said just love them as yourself. Somebody led you to Christ, and each one of you have a testimony of how that took place. It may have been a progressive thing over time. It may have been somebody that's just at work or somebody that you came upon in the street. I don't know. I don't know what your story is, but someone chose to share the gospel, to make the sacrifice to share the gospel with you. And you have to decide, am I going to do that? Am I going to love my neighbor as myself, as Christ asked me to? Because he knew that he was going to provide the avenue for which people could become saved eternally, that they could become part of the bride of Christ. And the question is, if we put ourselves in our fear of rejection, our fear of loss, if we put that above ourselves, if we put ourselves above the person that needs salvation. I know if I'm a lady and I've got a bunch of friends and some of them aren't saved, I might be hesitant to share the gospel with some of them because I don't want to lose their friendship, or I don't want to be ostracized. One of the things I discovered even when I was working for Campbell's is there was a whole lot of Christians out there, evangelical, not spirit-filled Christians, and some spirit-filled Christians, that would not share their faith. And the amazing thing is when I would share my faith boldly, they actually would move to the side of the unsaved people. And they'd come to me in my office and close the door. Jim, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be so bold about your faith. You might get fired. You might offend so-and-so. You might affect your next promotion and all these kinds of things that happen. None of that happened. I just kept getting promoted. The more I witnessed, God gave me a broader spectrum of people to witness to. And it just went on and on. And maybe I was foolish because I didn't know this that well. I didn't know the word that, excuse me. But I knew that God wanted me to love people. And it was during that 9 years that I was witnessing, halfway through I began to realize that I didn't love the people I was sharing the gospel with. I was just doing what I thought God wanted me to do. I was just trying to be obedient. I was just trying to perform in the way that I thought he wanted me to perform. It was later that I began to love people. And I would challenge you to this, and this is a strong opinion on my part. You can throw it away if you want. But I would have you analyze yourself to say, how much do I really love the lost? God's heart is that none should perish. But how much do I really love the lost? That I'm not fearful of putting myself out there You might say, well, I'll say the wrong thing, and then what will happen? Then God's word says, excuse me, God's word says that his word will not fall void, but go forth to do everything it was intended to do. You can't, excuse the terminology, but you can't screw it up. You can't screw it up. Because his word will go forth to do whatever it's intended to do in that person. If that person, if you lose that friendship, if you're alienated by them and others as a result of that, then I can remember I was in a coffee room where the leaders met when we were at Campbell's here in Omaha. There was about 6 or 7 of us, and nobody else was allowed in this room but us, and we'd all get together, and there was a table there and a bunch of lounge chairs, and we would conversate about business and what's going on in politics within the company and all that kind of stuff, and planning what our strategies would be and all that. It was a real kind of a war room. They called it the war room scenario. And we'd sit in there and have coffee and talk. And I remember one time, one of the people in our leadership team had gotten very, very sick, injured, I think. Sick or injured. I can't remember the whole story about it. But one of the guys in the leadership that was very antagonistic to me and the things of God said that he had gone to the hospital to see this person. And he said, oh, that was the most ridiculous thing I ever saw. There was a guy there, and the guy was actually, he was a political figure named Friend. His actual name is Friend. And he was a political figure in Omaha at the time. And he says, I couldn't believe it. This guy that's in leadership in the Omaha city area, you know, all this stuff. And he said, he was up there praying in tongues over this guy. The most ridiculous thing I ever saw. This guy was up there praying in tongues. And immediately in that room, all the born-again Christians in the leadership, there was a couple of them, 3, 4 of them. They turned and they immediately looked at me to see how I was going to respond to them. Immediately they wanted to see if I would stand up for Jesus Christ at that time. And, you know, you're in a position, each one of you, and every one of you, you've been planted in an area. You're the seed that God has planted where you are to impact the people that you can impact. And you're either doing that or you're not. I'm not suggesting you do it on company time and steal time and money from the company. I'm suggesting you find time in your conversations. I'm suggesting you pray a lot. Seek God as to what to say and who to speak to. Jesus said, I didn't do anything except for I saw my Father in heaven do it. He checked with Jesus all the time. And so I ask you, I know I harp on this all the time, but that's our marching orders. That's the Great Commission we've been given. And we can talk about lifestyle and all different kinds of things from the pulpit. I hope I don't turn you guys off, but you've got to get in a mode. You've got to get in a mode. You're all young enough that you can be my sons or daughters. And you got to get in a mode where you're openly and willingly sharing the love of Jesus Christ, where you really don't love those other people. You've placed your fear of rejection, you've placed other things ahead of Jesus. And so you can say, well, what if I witness and I lose my job? Well, first of all, you shouldn't be doing it where you're being paid. You should do it at breaks or something like that. But then go find the next place that God wants you to go. Go find the next place he wants you to witness. Because you're his ambassadors. You're his ambassadors. He'll place you wherever he needs you to be. And we should be willing to go and do whatever he's called us to do. But don't go without the word. Don't go without the word. Find out what it says. Jared, I'm going to skip down. I'm still not going to get to the message right now. But anyhow, I want you to see something that I think is kind of neat. And then we'll wrap up maybe a little early anyhow. Okay. Go down till you say, until you see it says, let's compare 2 strategies. You see that? It's quite a ways down. Let's compare 2 strategies. You see that? Okay, go right before that. It it says, in only a few years, they turned the world upside down. Now, the scripture I quoted before this was about the Great Commission. But it says in Acts 17:6, but when they did not find them, they dragged Jason and some brethren to the rulers of the city, crying out, these who have turned the world upside down have come here too. These two guys invited, Jason and some brethren had invited Paul, Peter and John, I think, to come and speak to their group of whatever Jewish people it was. And these people, of course, tried to find them, and they ended up dragging, it was Peter, and they ended up dragging Jason and these other guys down and said, who's this that you brought? Because we know that you've been behind these people that have turned the world upside down. You know, just years after Christ had gone to the cross and resurrected, just years after that, these people would be reported, the Peters, the Johns, they were being reported as the people that had turned the world upside down. This past week, it may have been the born-again evangelical Christians that may have just turned the world upside down by how they voted. And the question is going to be is, what will we do about it? What will we as individuals do about it? God has given us a breather, if you want to call it that. I still believe that he's coming back, probably not in my lifetime, but yours. I used to think and hope it was in my lifetime. I don't know. If it's 2,000 years, you know, that means we have the year 6,000, 2,000 a year, 1,000 years like a day, and a day is like 1,000 years. 6 days is 6,000 years. The actual 6,000 years from 2,000 from Jesus' victory on the cross and resurrection on that Easter Sunday. It'll be 2,000 years in 2033. Now, if there is some sort of a pre-trib thing that's going to happen as far as the Antichrist being put in place, you could back that up three years. It could be off a little bit. I've calculated probably the earliest that we would see him come back, or see it begin to happen. I guess not see him come back. Could be 2026, which is 10 years from now. We could see the things begin to fall in place for the final 7-year peace treaty and all that sort of stuff. So we're in those, we've been given a breather, we've been given an opportunity, the church has been given an opportunity. In the 70s and 80s, there was a great outpouring of the Holy Spirit, and that's when our denomination kind of exploded and ended up being one of the largest growing churches worldwide, and the Spirit-filled movement. Unfortunately, we turned that into ourselves and turned it into, a name it, claim it kind of a thing, when what we were supposed to be naming and claiming was the Word of God. And yes?
Can I just interrupt for a quick second? We're looking really hard and we can't find it. I know you know. The scripture about washing of the Word. Do you know what?
Washing of the Word?
That's scripture. I know there's more to it, but I don't know what it is. But we're looking in the concordance and we can't even find it. We're made whole by the washing of the Word or something like that.
Somebody grab their phone and just put it in real quick.
I'm
I know what you're talking about, but I'm not sure that I know. It's in, I think Paul, probably Corinthians, but
we're made holy or whole or something, or clean by the washing of the Word. I don't know.
Makes it made holy,
Maybe.
so that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by washing of water with the word.
Yeah.
Ephesians 5:26.
yep,
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, guys. Anyway, that's what they're
that's
looking
good.
at.
That's what your kids are getting back there. Yeah. So let's take these last couple of minutes to compare a couple strategies. I want you to see the difference in this, because this shows how you're involved in the strategies. Go on to the next one. Because we can turn the world upside down. We've got a few more years that God has given us. Let's compare the two strategies. The goal is winning all 6 billion people on earth to Jesus Christ, right? That's the goal. Okay, now go on to the next one. Okay, one churches reaching the world by addition. With this strategy, we'll equip a church to add 1,000 people to heaven's roll every year. No, let's equip it. I want to just go wild. Let's equip 10,000 big churches to add 1,000 people to the church every year. 10,000 big churches. And I don't know how many mega churches there are, but let's say those 10,000 mega churches add 1,000 salvations every year. Okay, that's one competitor. Go on. The other competitor will be one guy, Joe, or we could have put Tom, Daryl, or Eddie, or anybody, Marcy, who decides he or she will lead one person to Christ every year, disciple the new believer, and train them to do the same with someone else. Okay, we're gonna take Tom, and he's gonna lead one guy to the Lord this year, and he's gonna take the time to disciple that person in what he knows about Christianity, and he'll be learning while he's teaching the other guy, but he's gonna take that one guy. And then within that year that Tom is doing that person, whoever it is, that Tom has led to the Lord, will lead one person to the Lord and begin the same thing. Now you say, how can they do that when they're so young in Christ? We're always a year ahead, but so let's go on with the scenario. Your first thought might be, poor Joe doesn't stand a chance. Let's do the math. The big church strategy you add through addition looks good on the surface, but will take 600 years to reach the world. And that's if there's zero population growth. It would take 600 years for 10,000 churches, adding 1,000 people a year to the rolls of Christianity. It would take 600 years for that to happen. Now let's look at Joe. But since the statistics suggest we're currently adding 135 million to the world's population each year, the followers of the addition strategy will actually never reach the finish line. They'll actually never reach the 600 million, or the 6 million. Go on to the next slide. Joe's strategy, on the other hand, will surpass it. After 1 year, there will only be 2 disciples. At the end of the second year, 4. Third year, there are 8 followers of Jesus. Fourth year, 16. However, by the year 33, you'll have more than 8.5 billion Christians. Is that amazing? I did the numbers and I didn't bring them, but last week I did the numbers and I never got to them, so you guys didn't see it. But I figured out that the original disciples, the original 11 guys, 12 counting Paul, would have discipled everyone on earth, given the population was less than it is today. It was only about 3 billion or something or less. 1.5 billion, whatever it was. They would have actually, if they would have done this procedure, if each one of them would have led somebody to the Lord and discipled somebody, etc., that they would have won the whole world to the Lord by the year 33 AD. The whole world would have been Christian by the year 33 AD. So how does this impact me? Well, the way that impacts me is that, and you, and Tom, and Marcy, and Daryl, and Eddie, and Mary Jo, and others, Karen, the way it impacts you is that if your heart really is that people would not be lost. We see these pictures on TV of little starving kids and ask us for our money to help these starving kids and stuff. And our heart goes out. You might see these dog commercials asking you to give to these humane societies and stuff because of these little dogs that have been mistreated and stuff like that. Your heart may go out. But if our heart truly goes out, our heart will go out for that lost person that God has called us to evangelize. That lost person that can be that 1, that will be the 2, that will be the 4, that will be the 8, that will be the 16, which will be the 8.5 billion people. And I can keep going on this. The next thing is incredible. And then I'll stop and we can call it a day. But what about the population explosion? No problem. It would be 34 billion Christians just 2 years later. If we did this, and it actually worked, it's not possible because there aren't 34 billion people on Earth by that time. There's no way there could be. But the population explosion will not stop us. But here's the key. God promised Abraham children equaling the sands of the beach or the stars in the sky. And we know that those are in the billions, if not trillions. And he's looking to us to do that. He's looking at you and me. But he wants to know what's your real heart. And I'll talk about that next week. I'll talk about the seed. And what is the seed that's in your heart? And it's difficult. Being a parent of young children, it's difficult because you're just so busy just being a parent to those children. And there's so much to do with that. There's so much to do just to do our job every day and bring home the food for our families and that sort of thing. But it really comes down to priority. It really comes down to priority. What's the true priority in my life with regards to keeping my Father's commission? For keeping His commandment to love my neighbor as myself. For going to reach your city, your county, your state, your nation, the world. What's your priority? And you've got to, at some point, you've got to commit to God that you're going to do that. So, I'm closing on time. We're going to play this last song. I rarely do this, and I don't know if anybody will even respond. I really don't. But I feel like the Lord is telling me just now to do this. I'm going to play the song. I rarely say come up and pray or turn in your pew and pray. But I would just like you to make some sort of commitment today with regards to how you're going to pursue this. Whether you're going to begin to study the Word more so you feel more confident when you go to share with people. Whether you're going to just begin to share with that person God has put on your heart and you haven't shared with them because you're afraid of the potential repercussions to yourself and your family. Just let's put on that last song instead of standing up and singing it. And I don't know what it's probably going to be a rejoicing song because Margie's all about rejoicing this week because of what happened. This is on camera, but I'll even say this, that night, Tuesday night, we turned off the TV at 9:30. We were watching the election stuff. And it was so biased by the media that you couldn't really even watch it. But she was so heartbroken. She was so heartbroken over our kids, our grandkids, and your kids. She was so, just distraught. I can't even describe it. I've never seen her that distraught even when she was struggling with the stroke and all that stuff. She was just heartbroken that your kids, our grandkids, might have to grow up in a world where the abominations of the devil increase to such a level that it's actually could become detrimental to their very physical lives. And she was just heartbroken. I turned it off. I said, we'll find out what happened tomorrow morning. And at 10 o'clock was the first time we turned on. We kept talking about it. We didn't do it. It was 10 o'clock the next morning that we actually turned the TV on and saw. Because this is incredible. If he does what he said he's going to do with regards to the justice system, this is going to be an incredible impact on our nation for the lifetime of our kids and grandkids. And if you love your kids, wait till your grandkids come. It's incredible. And I know you love your kids, so it just, when you get grandkids, it's just, you begin to feel that extended, when you have your kids, it's somewhat myopic. You're just looking at if you know what the word myopic means, you're looking at the situation, you can kind of see right there. But when you have grandkids, you begin to see the expanse of what impact your life is making, not just on you or just on your kids, but on your grandkids. And so this has been life-changing. This has been life-changing. And we have another opportunity, folks. And we either do something with it or we don't. And it's up to us. And we might look like a fairly small group here, but it's up to us. So, I'm going to put the the song on. If you feel led of Lord, just to bow your head, turn in your chair, kneel down, come up to the altar, whatever God leads you to do. And just make some sort of commitment where you're gonna start next. Ask Him for some direction where you start next. But please start.